Round 20, New Zealand Warriors absolutely smashed the Sharks at home in Mount Smart. Let's take a look how this played out. Hey team, welcome back to the Warriorholic. Back home after the most amazing weekend up there in Auckland. So stoked to finally get to a home game there at Mount Smart after all these years of being away, following the team from Japan. I've seen them a few times in Wellington and Napier and the like, but to get to the real whare for the boys, absolutely outstanding. Big thanks to the Warriors for hosting me there in the sponsors lounge. Great privilege to sort of be amongst some awesome people up there. Got to meet the boys from City Kickboxing and the like, so outstanding day all in all for me, but most importantly from the boys. 25,000 fans there, absolutely over the moon. Boys never looked like not winning that game. Even from a pretty tough start there, I think the Sharks really came out to play. They showed their intensity in the first sort of 15-20 minutes there, getting the first try. I was never worried. You could just see it. They stood there behind the line there after that try that Hines got. You could just see how focused they were, Tohu racking them up, and from that point on we just put the foot down. Lost for words. But yeah, let's take a quick look at some of the stats here from the game and sort of, see what the key indicators there were for us. So first up, 42-12, 8 tries to 2. That's an annihilation for two top 4 teams. There's been a lot of talk about how Cronulla sort of struggle against the top 8 teams, but I don't think that's just a reason. I think we beat anyone pretty much last night with the way we played, but they had no answers. I think one of the key points there, you look at it, was 55% possession for us, 45% for them. But we had 90% completion rate and they had 76%. For me, it looked like a team that had some really, outstanding players, particularly in Hines. He's a world class. Nikore on the edge there, as good as any. But they played like a team of individuals. We played like a team, like a genuine team. Watching the boys before the game there, just the way they all came in one by one. Obviously, didn't come in on a team bus, but just all getting together, going around, greeting each other. Just see the the love in the eyes of the boys. They just seem like a genuine team. So that was one of the big differences for me there. And I think when you look at the team play that we're able to demonstrate at the moment, that's reflected in our defence. I almost kind of welcome teams onto our try line these days, because once we get right there, it seems really, really difficult for them to break us down. I think it was a little bit of just one sort of lack of concentration there that let Nico Hines sneak through, and that try from Nikore in the second half there, Chance came very, very close to stopping him as well. But other than that, they didn't really look like it. I guess other than their prop there getting that random charge down and running away there, which was a bit disappointing, but luckily got called back. But yeah, 85% defence for us, but 88% for them, which is quite interesting to see how many points you can get put on you when you defend, or your tackle efficiency is up at 88% there. But total tackles made there, 283 versus 375. That's a big difference. Similar number of missed tackles from us, but I think, again, we've had a couple of situations where our missed tackles don't necessarily lead to line breaks. You get guys who are very agile on the feet who'll sort of prance around and bounce off our guys, and I think it's a good sign of how calm and composed our defence is, that we don't panic. We just stand there and sort of hold our line and wait for the next guy to take them, rather than someone rushing up and sort of letting the guy bounce off and get through a hole and really leading to a full-on line break. Only the 5 ineffective tackles from us this week. I think we're up around 15 last week, so that's a real big improvement. Pretty fast play. The ball from both teams are a bit faster than us, actually, which is pretty surprising considering how many points we put on them. Negative play. So this is a big change for me from the past few weeks. Is Graham Lowe, in an interview, I've said this a few times, sort of talked about us going back about 8 to 10 weeks about how we were playing as well as a lot of the other teams, but we just weren't quite as concise. And over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we've seen us put a lot of points on, but we've made a lot of errors. This week, 6 errors. I think we're 16 last week, so that's a massive change for me. I think we showed this week we're so much more composed. We weren't rushing things. We were patient the way we built into the game. like I said, even though the Sharks really came out with a lot of intensity in the first 20 minutes and also into the beginning of the second half, I feel like we just absorbed that. We didn't panic. We didn't try and manufacture tries out of nothing. All of our tries were genuinely well constructed tries. Watching it live, it was just it was clinical to see from up sort of at a reasonably high angle. But then when I went back and watched the replay, just to hear the Fox commentary, you're just talking about how clinical our lines were. So it was just, it was an outstanding scene. So that was reflected on, the very few areas there. Less penalties in them, which is a good sign. Ruck infringements pretty much the same. One inside the 10 there. I think the refs were pretty lenient from that perspective. Watching live, you can really see how often, both teams particularly out, when you get out towards the edges, are way offside at times. But they didn't really get caught a lot. But I don't think that impacted on the game too much. Both teams sort of figured out how to get around that. So yeah, all in all, as far as the overall game went, I don't think we've played a better game this year, which would mean we haven't played a better game in many, many years. So our defence has been outstanding at times and got us home. In other games, our attacks, we've just put on a huge amount of points, but maybe the defence hasn't been as clinical. But I hadn't really felt like we'd managed to put both our defence and offence together in one game. We've always sort of been wondering what would happen when we finally did that. And I think yesterday was the closest we've come, where both were on, clinical on D, clinical on attack, and we just showed a class team with one of the highest scoring percentage. I think they have the most points, maybe either them or the Panthers in the comp. Couldn't score against us, 2 tries. So very, very good signs from the overall stats there. Other things of note, listening to Webby there in the post match, talking about how the flu's been going through the team. I was meant to catch up with Jazz yesterday for the first time there, but unfortunately the poor fellow was stuck at home in bed, crook, and it sounds like Tohu and a few of the others were just as bad, so hence Tohu had played very limited minutes. So considering the boys have been crook, that was a pretty outstanding effort, playing off half-empty tank. So let's take a bit of a look at each of the individual players here and give them a bit of a breakdown. So Chance, while he might not have had one of his biggest, most dynamic games, he didn't have the multiple try assists and line break assists and line breaks himself. 198 metres, 45 post-contact metres. His ability to just keep getting up and going again and again and again is second to none. Tackle efficiency of 60% looks bad, but actually, he only had 5 tackles all night, so it was just a couple of misses there that brought that right down. That era where he had that ball bounced really oddly up into his nuts there to cause a knock-on. I think that was, you saw that happen a few times in the game live. It sort of stood out to me as that the grass was really long. Obviously, they left it much longer than normal to hopefully hold it together in case there was rain with the ABs playing the night before them. So I think when we normally play, it's much shorter grass for lead because you're not having those scrums and the like pushing on the turf. So the ball took a couple of really odd bounces there for players. So I don't really put that down to him too much, but he got back up and we defended that. So that was good to see. One line break. 1 tackle break, 1 try assist. I got him a 9 out of 10, just purely because I think his, quieter games are literally only 5% down on what he delivers in his top games. He's just one of the most consistent players in the comp. His effort areas are just second to none. As far as like the meter eaters, doing the hard yards, him and Dylan Edwards would be by far, the top 2 for me at the moment. Dylan, another good game for my man there. He's just continued to, I think I've mentioned this a few times now. He worried me last year at times. He ran with so much intensity, but he'd often get the ball knocked out of his hands. In his first couple of games of the season, he didn't make, post-contact meters, but ever since, he had that switch to fullback there when Chance went down, something clicked, and he's amazing to watch live. He's not the biggest guy out there, but the intensity he runs into the line with, breaks tackles, gets that forward momentum, the energy he brings. You can see the whole team sort of, they thrive off what CNK, Dallin and Montoya do at the back there. Down on his metres a little bit this week, 117, but 100% tackle efficiency. There's pretty good effort from the man. We haven't seen him up that high at all this season. He's been down in the 50s a couple of times, but yeah, 1 line break, 1 tackle break, 2 tries, and a try assist. I just love how him and Rocco are working together on that right edge. Their kick chase, you can see Webby talked about that in the post game as well, about how I think that's why they're kicking to the right hand side so much, is because of the speed that both Dallin and Rocco are able to chase, and the tackling, from both of those guys to pin the opposition guy as soon as he catches the ball. Outstanding. So another a 9 out of 10 for me. Some might be a little bit more critical, but I couldn't ask for much more from the man, particularly those tries. I managed to catch one live on video there, which was pretty awesome just to see the crowd's reaction. Montoya, another really solid game from him. I don't think it was his biggest game of the year, but again, he's very, very consistent. You can just see the level of energy he's running around with. I gave him an 8, some may have given him a little bit less, some maybe even a little bit more. That tackle, was it Katoa that he put out in the corner there? I can't remember which one of the wingers it was. Just the effort to get that guy up and over the line there when, he'd probably score 6 or 7 times out of 10 in that same situation. His tackle efficiency at 57% looks really bad, but again here I think it was only 2 tackles and he made about 5, something like that. So it looked out of his 5, so it looks worse than it actually is. 2 tackle breaks, 18 runs though. Just shows you how much work he's doing up there with some of a lot of props are hitting around the 20 mark there in a really big game, whereas he's doing that every week. So good to see my man. Hopefully he keeps that up and gets a couple of tries in the next couple of weeks. Rocco Berry, for me, I think this was a real breakout game for him. You guys who follow my channel will know I've always been a big fan from him right from the first time I saw him. I've had a few chats with people who just they look at him on a superficial level and just think that he's too scrawny, or his defense is not good enough, or a whole bunch of things. But I've just seen the little micro skills that guy plays with, the lines he runs, the way he carries the ball in 2 hands out in front of him, his tackling ability, his ability to put guys into space, his effort, his kick chase. To me, I think he's got the makings of an absolute top-class centre. Listening to Webby talk about him in the post-game, I feel like he's definitely seeing him as ahead of Ali Lautaua at the moment. I actually ran into Ali, really nice guy, he was good enough to give me a photo. But just watching him, he was walking around with Williami, and I just got the impression he's still really, really young. He's a kid who's almost starstruck being around his mates. Whereas I think Rocco at 22, he's a very, very mature 22-year-old. And the more game time he gets, it just seems to step it up every week. So really proud of his effort there. 129 metres is most metres for a game this season. Tackle efficiency of 88 with 15 tackles. He makes more tackles than most of our outside backs. Like I've said, he always makes 2 in a row. If he's the main tackler, he'll always go into marker and make the next one. 7 line breaks. 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 2 line break assists, a try and 2 try assists. What more could you want? The tries that Charnsey set up, just going through that gap there and brushing off Talakai like he wasn't even there. Really, really proud of the big boy. So hopefully he continues to step up the progression. Adam Pompey, not his most outstanding game. I'm not going to question his effort. I think he could get a little bit, more involved. Only the 66 metres there, 60% tackle efficiency, but he made 12 tackles this week, which is a few more than he normally makes. 3 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and the try. And I think his try, when you watch it the first time, it doesn't look like much, but it's actually, he puts on 2 or 3 steps to get past those guys. Then still has the the strength to get over there. So, good on him. By all accounts, he's going to be re-signed by the Warriors. He turned down the offer from the Knights. I think it was one of the Aussie papers that were reporting that this week. So good on him. I'm not sure how he fits into the equation next year, but it's good to still have the depth there. And the guy's played every game this season, so good on him. I hope he continues to play solidly. I'd love to see his defence just get up there a little bit tighter. A few more runs and use that size a bit more, but still, you can't. I don't think you can question the effort. And when you see him with the other guys live, just when they're warming up for the games or like just hanging out together, he seems like a really popular guy amongst the team there. I got a photo with him, and he was just him and Dylan Walker, just such nice guys to have a quick chat to. Seems like a really good, genuine club man. So I think you've got to take into account a lot of what these guys bring to off the field as much as they do on the field. Luke Metcalf, again, stepped up. I think he struggled a little bit to find his timing of his running a little bit in the weekend there, but his support plays, building up a really good combination there, running off Egan when Egan makes those breaks. Got that try off the Egan run from dummy half there. Again, I'm really curious to see what happens when Tamati Martin comes back and he's fully fit when we get into the back end there. X factor versus experience, what I really liked watching him in live is to see how much he's committed and putting himself in front of some of those big bodies coming at them. He'll be in the air throwing himself into them full speed, to try and put a shoulder and sort of stop the guys because he's still pretty small. He's definitely a lot slighter than SJ. But 95 running metres there, 8 runs in total, 80% tackle efficiency with 20 tackles, 3 tackle breaks in the try, almost 2 there. You've got to love the fact that he's our genuine sort of speed and X factor there. Got a little bit of Reece Walsh about him lurking around the ruck there, so definitely adds that second dimension to our attack there. And I like the fact that when SJ went off the field at the end there, he was able to step up, take control of the team, took control of the kicking, looked very, very comfortable out there. So 8.5 for me out of I don't think it was his best game, but I struggle to fault too much of what he did. So any of the boys actually over the weekend. Then we have SJ. Man, it was so nice to see. The occasion was pretty much about him. All of the fanfare, like the T-shirts and the big placards and stuff around. It was interesting, because you've got Adam and Dylan and Egan there with their milestones. But it seemed to be a lot about SJ there, and I think you can just tell that the club means a huge amount to him, the team means a huge amount to him, the fans mean a huge amount to him. He kicked that ball from the right-hand sideline off after Dylan's kick. You could just see he thrives on the interaction of the fans, and the guys just everyone starts clapping and cheering him halfway through his kick. He just loves it. To see that and feel it live, it was really awesome. Off the back of him having his baby there the night before and having his daughter out there with him when he went onto the field. So that was a really, really nice thing to be a part of. That said, as far as his footy went, mate, he stepped up. Nico Hines, all the talk about him, Dalium half of the year last year. That's 2 times SJ's pulled one over him. Just continues to show for me he's the former halfback in the competition. He ran that game. His combination with Egan, just absolutely outstanding. I think that's the best 7-9 combination going around at the moment. 5 from 7 kicks. We seem to score a lot of tries out on the sideline, but the ones he actually missed were a bit closer in. He only ran for the 61 metres this week. He was definitely distributing the ball a lot more than running. He gave a couple of runs here and almost got that one sort of breakthrough for a try there, but it's just really good to see the way he's linking, particularly with Dylan Walker. When Dylan Walker came on for Tohu, he seems to connect really, really well with him and comes into second receiver at some stages. Great to watch. 3 line break assists, 3 try assists. Man, what more could you want from your halfback? I really hope his ankle's okay. Seems like an upper ankle sort of strain there. He seemed to be moving around okay after the game, but you'd really hope that he's available this week for a big game against Cronulla there, particularly when it looks like it might be a wet game. So 9.5 for me. Not much more I could have asked from the big man. On to the forwards. Mate, I say this every week. Adam Fanua-Blake, 9 out of 10 from me. I don't know what he'd have to do actually for me to give him a 10, because there's not much more you could ask. I love the fact he's just leaner, he's fitter. He played right the way through the whole first half. the first 10 minutes or so of the second half there, with Tohu playing much more limited minutes this week with the flu there. 183 metres, 62 post-contact metres, 24 tackles at 96% tackle efficiency, 4 tackle breaks in the try. But it's just you can't comprehend how strong that guy is when he's got 3 or 4 opposition forwards hanging off him and they just can't get him on the ground. He just keeps on pumping those legs on through, and it must just lift our team to have him out there. A lot of debate around who's the best prop. Is it Tino? Is it Payne Haas? Is it Adam Fanor-Blake? Right now, I wouldn't give him up for either of those two. I felt at times last year he seemed lonely out there. He seemed like he was carrying a bit of weight. He just wasn't happy. I just really hope that he is enjoying it as much as it looks like. It seems he's got a great camaraderie there with the likes of Mitch Barnett and Jazz and Dylan Walker, the middle forwards there. That I'd love to see him stay even past the end of this contract the way he's playing, because he's the heart and soul of our team, and I think he's the one guy we would struggle the most with if we lost going into the last few games of the season. So another outstanding game from him for me. Tom Ali coming into the unfamiliar starting role, probably struggled a little bit. I think the way he was hitting the line, I don't think he was used to coming on up against a really fresh forward pack. A couple of times they managed to sort of lift him up and drive him back quite a way, so his metres were down a little bit. But I don't think he was overwhelmed by the occasion. He seemed like he was meant to be out there. 26 minutes, so quite similar to what Bunty would do when he's playing in the starting role there, but only the 35 metres, 13 post-contact, but 18 tackles at 100% of tackle efficiency. Not quite as many tackles as Bunty would make, but a kind of similar role. And I think by not having Bunty there, you kind of notice that he probably does play that starting role a bit better than Tom. Tom's a bit better coming off at the back end of the game against tired fullbacks with his subtle footwork and so forth. But still a solid effort. 7.5 for me. Just the one tackle break, but it'll be really be great experience for the young fella, and another year or so he could develop into a starting front row. Wade Egan, outstanding again. It was weird because I didn't notice a lot of the details that happened in this game live, because there's so much going on. You're so passionate. But when I went back and watched it live, particularly listening to McInnes, I know he's a bit of a fanboy and kind of gets a bit wrapped up at times. But by hearing him talk about the way that Egan and SJ were linking and the subtleties that they were doing to deceive the defence and creating the space for the guys out wide, it really did give me an appreciation of just how good he's becoming. The work he does on defence there, 33 tackles again for a guy who's not huge. I'm so happy that the club stuck with him and knew better than me, because I always thought that was going to be one of our missing links, is to have that world-class hooker, and I think we've got it now. 80 minutes he played yesterday, 33 metres. I'm surprised actually it wasn't a bit more with a couple of the breaks he made there. 82% or 82.5%, as I said, with 33 tackles, 1 line break, 1 try assist. I couldn't ask much more from him. Good to see him sort of step up there and have another go at 5'8". After Shaun went off, looked really comfortable with his kicking there, which makes me wish he kicked a little bit more out of dummy half. Just on that note, I forgot to mention that SJ's first 40-20 of the season there. That's something I'd still like to see the boys get a little bit more often, particularly from Egan coming out of dummy half here. It's not the most difficult kick in the world when you're on the left-hand side to kick that left to right wipers when you've got their backs up flat. We shall see, but I couldn't ask much more from Egan. Jackson Ford, look, he didn't have the most standout game compared to some of the other guys, but he played solid. Another 8.5 for me. 80 minutes played again. Only the 89 metres. He has been up over 100 recently, but 38 tackles. The amount of clean-up that guy does, the energy he shows, you can just really appreciate the fitness. It's outstanding, and he just doesn't stop throughout the whole bloody game. You never see him with his hands on his hips, particularly when you get to see them watching live. You'll see the middle forwards often sort of walking back or standing offside there. and sort of waiting for the play to pass them to get a rest, but he was always back in the line there, taking a lot of those dirty carries. So very, very solid workman-like performance. Can't wait to see him back out there with Niakora on the opposite side there this weekend. They make such a great pair. Mitch Barnett, man, he's a guy you can really appreciate live as well. He hits the line with some serious intensity. He just lifts the team. You know, similar in attack, man, he whacks some people. That he's not the biggest guy to have there. I think he's definitely better suited to the middle. You can just see the impact he has once he moved into the middle there. But boy, I like him at prop. He's just got such a lot of energy. He makes those post-contact meters there. 68 minutes for him, which is quite big minutes there. 165 meters, 97% tackle efficiency and 29 tackles made and 4 tackle breaks. Mate, it was interesting. He wasn't the most dynamic of all of his games he's played, but you just felt the impact, particularly live. Like you could hear some of those tackles from the other side of the field on right up the back of the grandstand. So definitely happy to have him at the club. Righty, then we've got Tohu. Like I said, playing off the back of that flu. He only played the 36 minutes this week, which was good that they didn't have to overplay him. But you definitely notice, the difference in intensity and just the way the team functions when he's out there. When he came back on in the second half there after the Sharks started with a pretty strong start into the second half there. Tohu comes back on, gets the leadership gun, and all of a sudden the foot goes onto the pedal again. 96 metres in 36 minutes. 100% tackle efficiency, just the 14 tackles, but again, if he played his normal 70 minutes, that's another, 30 plus tackles there, 2 tackle breaks. Someone described him the other day as like a bloody octopus because, when I shook his hand when I met him in Napier, he's like, just literally got the softest handshake. He's so softly spoken. He doesn't run, like a bull in a china shop, but he's just such a difficult guy to get on the ground. That little subtle step, those big long arms, he just seems to find his way through gaps that a lot of guys wouldn't. And he's a very big boy. He was, probably the tallest guy out there on the field, close to who, I can't remember that bald prop from Cronulla was a bloody big boy as well. But yeah, he's definitely a large lad that you don't realise when you don't see him in real life. Off the bench, Dylan Walker, man, what a difference that guy makes. That's 2 weeks in a row that the whole tempo of the game has just switched up when he's come on the field there. Huge to have, and I just can't wait. Jazz was saying that he's back after the bye, so we're only a couple of weeks away there after a little bit of a setback at training. Those two as a 1-2 punch with that energy coming on in the back half, particularly in dry games against big packs, is just going to do some damage in this final run into the finals this year. 9.5 for me, 49 minutes played, 147 metres. He's just sneaky powerful. When I got a photo next to him, I was really surprised. He's not that much smaller than Pompey. Pompey's a big bugger, and it makes me realise how bloody short I am standing next to these guys. But he's a very, very solid boy. 88% tackle efficiency, 23 tackles, but he does a lot of clean-up tackling as well. 1 tackle break, 1 line break, but just, his connection there with SJ is really, really good. He's just definitely like a third half out there. Makes such a big difference. So hopefully he stays injury-free going into the back half of the season. Bailey Sirinen, 7 out of 10 for me, purely because of the minutes. He only plays 30 minutes. And I don't know, he seemed to have a bigger impact this weekend. Like I noticed when he came on, his tackling efficiency was way up there, 94% for his 17 tackles with much less missed tackles this time. He put on some really timely big hits. Just a 52 metres, but playing on edge there, it's probably understandable, the 1 tackle break. But just having there as cover for so many different positions, he's going to be really important as we get into the back half of the season. I'd forgotten about this, but someone reposted during the week the fact that he has been told that he won't be re-signed next year. So it's a little bit sad because he's playing his butt off for us, and he's part of what is becoming a really awesome culture at the moment. So I do wish him all the best wherever he ends up. I heard a rumour that it might be the Dragons, which would be a bit of a tough move after being in such a successful team this year, but maybe the old hook can turn them around next year. Josh Curran, another one, man, he's sneaky big when you see him in real life. I remember when he first started playing, I felt like he seemed a little bit light or, not that big. And he's got a big chest on him, that boy. He's very, very solid. He looks a lot thicker in real life. Again, I love his intensity off the bench. I know it probably frustrates him, but I think that having that energy coming off the bench is a real credit. And we'll see that again this week with Niakota. We're definitely back in the starting role. But yeah, he plays with a lot of energy there. He played for the 41 minutes, only the 44 metres, but you just feel like he's doing more than he actually, like the numbers reflect here, just the 12 tackles at 86%, but he just feels like he's involved a lot. I think, like, again, I still don't know how they count those tackles, but he's involved in 3 or 4 tackles a set at times. But because he's not the first tackler, he's probably not getting the credit for it. But 3 tackle breaks and 1 line break there. You couldn't ask much more for one of your bench forwards. Freddie Lasik only played the 15 minutes, but I think what he did out there, he just jumped in dummy half there. Great service. He's a very aggressive tackler, 100% efficiency, even though he only made 6 of them there as the main tackler. But he definitely he holds up an end much more than I thought he would, and it's really good to have Egan still being only 26. He's got a lot of good years left in him that Lasik can build his craft behind him if he's patient, because I think he's got a lot of similarities to a young Egan. Just the 10 run meters and the 1 tackle break, but again, he didn't let anybody down. He was very, very solid in what he delivered. So all in all, to summarise, I couldn't have asked for more from the boys. The best game you could ever want to see live at Mount Smart with 25,000 people. It's a bit of a disappointment that we didn't get up to the 30, but I think if it's fine on Friday night, there'll be a huge crowd there. It could rain. A lot of people are a bit worried about that, but quite frankly, I'd quite like it to be similar to like it was against Souths, to see if we can really adapt this time and put one over the Raiders, who are not they're not a big scoring team. They struggle to construct decent drives, but they are a big pack. That I'd really like to test ourselves against them. And a lot of people sort of thought if you could win one out of these two out of these, 2, it would be great. But it's kind of like one I'd like to see us get tested in that rain and figure out how that wet weather footy goes, because if we end up with a home semi, it could well be in that dodgy Auckland weather. So just looking at the run in here, so we've got the Raiders this week at home, then we've got the bye, then we've got the Titans away, Tigers at home in Hamilton there, Manly at home, Dragons at home, and the Dolphins away. All of these games are winnable. I think we can beat all of these teams. There's a very good chance we go undefeated. I don't mind if we lose one along the way to kind of, that whole getting an undefeated roll on there and that extra pressure that we don't need. But shit, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to put a number on a lot of these teams. And interestingly, at the moment, we're sitting on 5th, but both the Storm and the Raiders have had that extra bye. So if we give us the 2 points that we get for our bye, for and against, we're sitting in 3rd. So effectively, we win this week, we go up into the top 3. We continue to win, we get the bye, and we continue to win. There's every chance we can finish top 4. I think to the fact that, if we don't finish at least top 6, I'm going to be disappointed with the foundation we've built. But I think it comes down to the boys staying healthy. We saw how easy it was for, SJ to get that ankle. Things like that can really sort of derail a season, particularly, we've got probably 3 or 4 guys there that Chance, I think, we lost Chance. There's a huge impact there. As good as Tuaupiki is, he just wouldn't do the same amount of work. Haas, we've got Tamati Martin. I think SJ would be a big out, but I think Volkman is probably capable in these back lower team games to step up and hold his own there. But a long-term injury going into the finals without SJ or Tohu or Dylan Walker or AFB would be a bloody nightmare. So I think it's the injuries we've got to worry about. Running a little bit low on energy now after not getting home till 11 o'clock last night. But man, I've been smiling all day. Just, I'm glad I didn't have to work today, because the amount of tweets and all the comments and stuff across my platforms from everyone is just, rocking after that performance has just been outstanding. So keeping it grounded, but keeping it real, that the Warriors are the real deal this year. Even here in the Australian pundits are constantly talking us up. They're seeing that we are we are the real deal. We're not dropping off. So an exciting week for me this week. I'm not nervous. Like I said, I'd quite like it to be wet weather to test ourselves. If we happen to just drop it, we'll probably learn something from that again, and it takes a little bit of that pressure off of that whole unbeaten run into the finals. But I think the boys will get it done. I think we'll have too much for them on defence. They don't have enough to offer an attack. We just show what we can create when we're, concise. Hope we get close to a sellout up there in Mount Smart. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get there. It'll be the Seagulls before I can get up again, but I can't wait for that game. Up the mighty Warriors. Stay tuned for some interesting content that may be coming over the next couple of days. I'll put a bit of a hint out about that once I get it all confirmed and locked down, hopefully for tomorrow. So, up the Warriors. This is the Warriorholic. Very happy off my back of my Mount Smart debut. All in. Heading for the finals.